Okay, today we're going to talk about pfSense 2.1. First, let's go over the points as to why you would choose pfSense. pfSense is a free and open source firewall. It's based on BSD and it was introduced in 2004. It's only the software component, so you still need to supply your own hardware. Despite being open source, it is secure and it has strong community support. A couple people like to complain about open source security. Security through obscurity is really no security at all. It's only a matter of time until someone finds a hole and then you're SOL. pfSense supports up to 3 gigabits per second of throughput. Any higher than that, you need a dedicated hardware firewall. No software firewall is really going to do it for you. It has features like an advanced firewall. It supports automatic failover for high availability. It has built-in VPN. It will do outbound and inbound load balancing. It supports dynamic DNS. Captive portal. It has its built-in dhcp server. And it supports installing external packages to add functionality. So let's go ahead and log into my first pfSense firewall. Today I have 2 pfSense firewalls up and running for you. One is here locally, and you'll see it on my 10.10.10.1 network, and the other is approximately 40 miles away, connected via site-to-site VPN, and that's on the 192.168.170 address. When you first log in, this will be the screen that you see. It's the pfSense dashboard. I'm going to jump backwards for a minute, and we're going to go ahead and do the basic setups that you'll see it as though it were a fresh install. Let's see, I actually want to do setup wizard. So when you first log into your pfSense firewall, you'll get this little screen. Go ahead and click next. You need to give it a host name. I chose pfSense 01 for this particular firewall. You can name it anything you like, just remember it, and I suggest something descriptive. The domain, again, can be anything that you like. This is for internal purposes only, so it doesn't need to be a valid domain on the outside world. You can leave the DNS servers blank. If you'd like to override whatever your ISP gives you by default, you can go ahead and type them in right here. Next, you can pretty much leave this. Probably want to set your time zone, but aside from that, the default time server will be perfectly fine. You want to make sure you actually specify a valid time server and that you keep them consistent across all of your installs. This gives you a central time to sync all of your logging to, and when you're trying to track down an incident, this helps dramatically. You really want to have your time down to the millisecond across all of your servers. This way that, so if you see an attack occurring on, say, your mail server, and then you want to correlate the logs between your mail server and your firewall, you can do that. If they are like a second apart and you have thousands of events being logged in a second, all of a sudden it becomes very, very difficult to figure out what's going on. This screen, you pretty much just want to set up for DHCP, and this is where you configure your WAN. Most of this, I think, fills itself in for you. You probably want to block RFC 1918 private networks. Those are all of your internal addresses. They're not internet routable. If you see something like that coming in from the outside, you know it's bad traffic or it's being spoofed. Moving forward, this is for your internal addressing. I chose a Class A private network. Again, this is outlined by RFC 1918. The 10.x.x.x network will provide up to 16 million unique IP addresses. Most people are actually going to go with the 192.168.x.x network, and that's a Class C that will provide approximately 65,000 IPs for you. Here you set your password. You want to remember that. I'm going to go ahead and back out at this point. Actually, let's go next. Now I'm going to back out so that I don't overwrite my settings. Now we're back at the dashboard, and I'll go through a quick walkthrough. The first thing you want to set up, and you kind of set this up when you first set up the firewall on the command line, are the interfaces. So go to Assign, and you'll see all of your hardware interfaces here, and those are your SK0, SK1, SK2, SK3 on my particular firewall. You can also virtualize the interfaces, and in that case you'll see a VLAN running on top of the hardware interface. So I have my WAN and my media LAN segment running over the same wire. This isn't really a recommended configuration, but in the interest of not punching extra holes in my wall, I decided to do this, and there's nothing important on my media LAN anyway. If you want to configure your VLANs, you can do it under the VLAN tab. Moving on, we will the next thing you really need to check are your firewall rules, and they'll be right here. You'll have rules set up for each of the interfaces. You can also add groups of interfaces that will be affected by a single rule set. This is helpful to avoid duplication of rules if you have multiple LAN segments that should all be governed by the same set of rules. You need to make sure that you allow any traffic, because by default everything's blocked on pfSense, and it's going to seem like the network segment is down when it's actually operational and working perfectly fine. Let's see, moving forward, you can do traffic shaping if you would like. This is helpful if you have limited bandwidth and you need to guarantee bandwidth for high priority applications like, say, VoIP or fast-paced gaming like first-person shooters. This allows someone in your household to, say, watch Netflix and basically monopolize your connection, and someone else to play games but not lag out due to Netflix using all the bandwidth. Let's see, moving forward, I'll just go through a few basic things. pfSense is a built-in dhcp server. This allows you to assign dynamic IP addresses to machines that connect to your network. You pretty much want to enable this, and I believe it's enabled by default. You do want to set an appropriate range for your network. I recommend leaving a few of these IP addresses outside of the dhcp server scope. This way you can manually configure IP addresses that are static, and then you'll always be able to get to those static devices. Because any device that connects inside that requests a dhcp address gets a dynamically assigned address, the address for that device will actually change over time. Let's see what else we have here. The load balancer is for inbound load balancing. If you have, say, you're a web host and you have multiple web servers and you want to balance the connections across multiple web servers, you would set that up here, and you would add your servers to a pool, and then pfSense is going to go ahead and split up the inbound connections between those servers. If one of those servers goes down, it's fault tolerant and it will be removed from the pool, and then all the connections will be split up into the remaining servers that are still in the pool. Moving forward, we can look at our VPN capabilities. PPTP is supported by Windows natively. It's no longer recommended, but if you don't have anything important going on, you can use it. And for this, I'm actually going to turn it over on to my secondary firewall 40 miles away, because this is where I have my VPN set up. And this is about all you actually have to configure. It's going to go ahead and give you an internal IP address when you log in through Windows, and then it's just like you were on the local network when you're actually away and at a remote location. pfSense also supports site-to-site VPNs. I have that set up through ipsec. So you can see this server, well, this firewall here, and of course my remote gateway is actually this other pfSense firewall. So when we go over to my ipsec VPN here, you'll see this firewall as the remote gateway, and those two are actually connected. We can check the status of that by going to the status tab, and scrolling down to ipsec, and you'll see it's operational. The status tab has a few useful bits of information here. You can view your dhcp leases. You can check your, well, this is for the other load balancer. If you have dual WANs like I do, you can check the status of those. You can see I only have one currently up. This does outbound load balancing as well, and it's also fault tolerant. So in this case, it's kind of failing over to my first WAN at the moment. My first WAN is cable internet. My second WAN is actually my phone tether, which is almost as fast as cable internet. And when I have it load balanced, you'll see my approximately 28 megabits per second downstream connection be expanded out to about 35 as it gets added in with my phone traffic. This also gives you very useful graphs of all the traffic and other meaningful statistics on your firewall for monitoring purposes, and it will go back all the way to 4 years ago. You can see processor usage, memory usage, how many states you're using, traffic coming in and out both in megabits per second and packets per second. You can see the quality of your service moving to your gateway. If your quality degrades quite a lot, say my traffic spiked up like this, up to 60 milliseconds, that might indicate a saturated connection where you need to do the traffic shaping. You also have all of your system logs here. See some lots of useful information here, especially for troubleshooting purposes. And then we have our diagnostics tab. I'm not really going to go through this too much. The one that you really want to check out is probably the reboot function. If you need to reboot the system, you'll go here. And I think you also shut it down over here as well. I don't remember. I'm sure it's staring me in the face, I just don't see it. Anyway, pfSense, it's very powerful, it's free, it's open source. You should go ahead and get on the bandwagon. I have mine running on old WatchGuard Firewall appliances. They're 1U rack mount appliances with a LCD screen in the front. The community has supported those almost entirely. They're very stable, they're pretty quiet. I highly recommend them. Another thing to look into on pfSense, the way that the my firewall is supported are through packages like the LCD proc. It has an LCD screen on the front. You can also add additional functionality to pfSense through the installation of other external packages. There's all kinds of useful stuff here, including HTTP antivirus software. There's Snort. You can run Tron jobs, which are just scheduled tasks. Lots and lots of cool stuff here, including you can even block entire countries. So if you have, say you want to keep Russia out of your network, you can do that. In pfSense, it's very powerful, and you can't beat the price. And that concludes my presentation.